Yo, what is going on, everybody? My name is Alan. This is Project Elevate. Today I want to talk to you about how to make 2K23 awesome. And the first thing I want to talk about is card integrity. It's important, man. So let's get into it. Let's see what am I talking about when I say that. And the best way to illustrate it, there's a couple things to it, but one of the things that I want to touch on before I get into like the main part of it is just kind of the card tier integrity over the course of the year. And this is what I'm talking about right here. You have guys from way back when original token market pink diamonds, 2 Hall of Fame badges, etc., etc. Now you have ruby cards that have some badges like that, amethyst cards that have more Hall of Fame badges than this, diamonds that have way more Hall of Fame badges than this, and this definitely gets confusing as the game progresses. Now, if you're really into the MyTeam community, hey, there's a power creep, etc., etc. But I propose that they have non-overlapping ranges for the card tiers as far as Hall of Fame badges and just kind of overall stats, the important stats, not the shot IQ and all that stuff, but the important stuff, so that there's a range that cards will improve within a tier. There's still going to be animation stuff that's going to make cards better or worse, but we just can't have an overlap where it's just like clear as day that ruby card is better than a pink diamond, or diamond card is better than a dark matter card, or something like that. Just keep it linear, make it nice and clean so that there's just no kind of crazy overlap. All right, so the main part of this video that I want to talk about is the game cycle and how cards kind of get structured and released so that it kind of makes more sense and makes the game fun, balanced. We can also have a little bit of fun towards the end with the craziness if that's what you're into. What most people do is they split the game into early game, mid game, end game. I like to split it up into 4 parts. So early game, which is like September to November, mid game, which is like December to February-ish, end game starts pretty much after the All-Star break, is going through like where the finals are, end of the finals, ideally beginning of the finals, somewhere in that range right there, where we're getting into June. And then we have the post-apocalypse time, the end times. Something happens, the apocalypse drops in this year's 2K, I believe. I personally put it when they dropped the invincible Ben Simmons card and the Yao. That kind of dropped. After that, it kind of just started sliding into the realm of unbalanced cards and stuff like that. And Taco, Yao got their dark matters later on, in game cards, all that stuff. But I propose that we split it up in that fashion. And once we get to that post-apocalypse, pretty much after the season is over, into the summer months where we're kind of just waiting for the next game, go crazy, do whatever you want. I still like to see some type of hierarchy as far as what cards are the best, be it like current or all-time greats being better than just kind of meme cards, stuff like that. But they can be usable, they can have enhanced stuff, whatever. But let's talk about how it should be split up during the first 3 parts of the game. All right, so let's talk about the early game and how we need to structure these cards. For all this to work, cards need to be dated, time stamped, so to speak. So we have like, for example, a rookie version Jordan, where he was super athletic, body shooter, Kobe, the Kobe that was airballing shots in the playoffs, that type of deal before they kind of rounded out their game. So have those real life deficiencies to not make them too overpowered, but still allow us to use some of those cards. So that's what you would get with superstar type players, both current and all-time greats. Just kind of pre-prime rookie type versions, or late career post-prime, where they didn't have the athleticism but they could shoot a little bit. Give us those little different flavors and keep them authentic to the time period. I think they can go a long way to giving us the right type of variety in the game that we kind of all just want to see. And then with like stars, not like the superstars, but the second tier dudes, you can give us those guys like on the cusp of their prime, stuff like that. Those will be like the amethysts, the diamonds, stuff like that, some of the first pink diamonds, guys like that. And then role players just kind of like in their typical roles, not like that one breakout season that they had, but just typical whatever. And those will be your lower tier cards. You can also get your base sets, which is a great idea. Hopefully that comes back for next year. Hopefully we get an update to the base set next year, your series 1, stuff like that. All right, so going on into the mid game, and again, this is like December to February type of time frame. Here you're gonna get cards that still have some realistic sigs and badges, stats, all that good stuff. And you're gonna start to see superstars and all-time greats that were on the cusp of their prime. They're good players. You're going to start seeing a lot more pink diamonds. Galaxy Opals start to come out, towards this time of era. But they're not going to be like the total dominant beasts that we remember them for. Right. So for stars, this is where you can give us prime versions of them. They're average, typical production, not your top tier, S tier superstar type guy, but your other stars, your all stars that made the team a couple times here or there, whatever. You can give us some prime versions of them. realistic to how they actually played, badge them up accordingly, etc., etc. And role players, you can start giving us a couple of role players, and maybe like that one standout season they had where they just played a little bit above. They were on that cusp where you're like, is this guy gonna like stand out, break through? But no, they just ended up being a good role player that has had a good year or something like that. And here you can also start introducing current and historic moment types cards that have exaggerated stats that are true to that performance. This could be like a career high type moment for a guy, whatever that may be, where it juiced. This guy went off for his career high in 3-pointers, and normally wasn't a great 3-pointer, but you can juice the 3-point shot for that particular card. Just make it make sense and tie it into a specific era or a game or a playoff series or something like that. That way, just kind of it makes sense in our minds, and we get a lot of different variety. We got a lot of different flavors of this particular version of cards. Kind of the worst thing I think is getting 8 different versions of a card, and they're all the same. There's like a couple stat differences here and there, maybe a position difference, but essentially they feel exactly the same. And the more dynamic we get with cards, the more varied we get with cards, the more interesting lineups are going to be, the more strategy is going to have to be implemented into all this. So I think that's how that should kind of work. All right, so now we move into the end game, and in the end game, it usually, we all know, right around the All-Star break, a little bit after that, we start getting pretty juiced cards in comparison to what we've been seeing. So this is the time to start bringing out some of those guys. This is the time to get some of the prime versions of superstars and all-time greats. Stars when they had that excellent season, that just standout season that you're just like, whoa, this guy is going to be a superstar, but then he kind of came back to earth a little bit. And then historic moments like epic playoff performances, Jordan's flu game, whatever that may be, some playoff performances from LeBron during his title run with Cleveland that year, stuff like that, where just guys just kind of like went crazy, embellished those ratings and stats accordingly. But you're still kind of in the realm of realism, but with embellishments. It's a little bit more spicy out there, but still nothing crazy. You don't have your dribble god tacos or whatever that may be. And you can have some fan favorites here where like they had like that career game, so this is kind of more like moments cards still, or just like that one game where he just went crazy and you can juice him up, but it's still, there's some type of basis of reality for the exaggerated stats, badges, animations, whatever it may be. One game where the guy went crazy, draining contested shots, so you give him a quicker jump shot or whatever it may be like that. And then you can start introducing some out of position players here where it makes sense. So for example, like a Grant Hill, Lamar Odom, even like a T-Mac or Jordan who like actually did do a lot of ball handling, kind of ran that point at times, and even though they were primary scorers, you can give those kind of cards point guard position players. And nothing that's just out of left field, but stuff that makes sense in the context of history of the game. And here we can get like a base set version 2 with like prime versions of like historical cards and stuff like that. That way we have something else to go on. Update to cards that maybe aren't going to get moments or this and that. We can do stuff like that. I think that would be really cool just to update the base set. I think the base set was a great addition to this year's game, and I was just like hoping that they would instead of releasing heat checks and dynamic ratings and series 1 and series 2, etc., whatever those may be, give us another base set update. Juice up some of those cards a little bit in their prime seasons, the seasons they're remembered for, whatever it may be. And this is getting, again, towards the end of the game, end of the real NBA season corresponds with that. And then in the apocalypse and beyond, so once the apocalypse hits, once we're in a nuclear wasteland, just everything goes. Still, you can kind of start it off with some interesting things. One of the ideas I had is maybe like what if scenarios for what if Grant Hill never had any injuries? What if Greg Oden never had the injuries that shortened his career? What type of player would have he been? What was his potential at? Kareem, what if Kareem played in the modern era? Kareem was skilled enough where he would have developed a 3-point shot most likely. So that's where you start, not juicing to the max. He's never gonna be like, Kareem was never gonna be Steph Curry type shooter, but yeah, would he be able to like step out and hit some threes? Yeah, probably. He played in a different era, so that's where you can kind of start embellishing these stats to make cards a little bit more fun for people that want that, but still base it on some type of reality. And this is where you can also start embellishing SIGs a little bit, jump shot based on historically good shooters that just had like a weird form or like a slower form, whatever that may be. You can start changing them a little bit, but not to the extent that we see. And I still think, man, the more variety we have in SIGs, the more variety that are actually effective in their own way. We'll get into that in gameplay, you know, coming up with the series. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. Let me know what you guys think of some of these ideas as far as the structuring of cards, the non-overlapping of tiers, things like that, and also just kind of the pace. And 2K actually did a really good job this year, so shout out to them. Most of the year, the cards were pretty balanced. They had some type of flaw where they couldn't do it all, so that was good, and I like to see that continue on. People praise that, people like that. Consensus around the community is like, once you know, these taco yaos, all this crazy endgame card stuff happened, it sucked a lot of the fun out of it. Everybody kind of like had a taco out there, had a Yao Ming at power forward, had et cetera. So the more balanced, the more dynamic the game becomes, the more cards and that all has to do with card variation. That all has to do with stats and badges not being overly done. So let me know what you guys think about that. This is going to be the first video in this series, so look for more of these. Drop a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. My name is Alan. This is Project Elevate. Until next time, elevate your grind, game, yourselves, and each other. Peace.